0602. That's 800-809-0602.
Okay, everyone, let's get back to work.
Now, back to Open Mic.
The voice of the Orlando sports fan.
With Orlando Sentinel columnist Mike Bianchi and Brian Fritz.
If the whole world were like you guys, we wouldn't have so many problems.
35 past the hour here, Open Mic on 740 The Game. Busy Thursday morning here on the show.
Hugely busy Thursday morning. We have a studio full of people. We have the Multimedia in Action Committee from the Orlando Sentinel here to observe multimedia in action. I am Mike Bianchi, sports columnist of the Orlando Sentinel.
I've heard it's basically just to babysit you to make sure you're in line.
That's probably it. Yeah, they're here to observe. So we have fans in the studio. We have groupies in the studio. You can listen to the show online at 740thegame.com, or you can go to my wildly popular open mic blog at orlandosentinel.com and listen there as well. Just click on my bald head at the top of the page, and it'll take you right to the live stream of this radio show. We also have in studio right now a very special guest. His name is Pat Williams. Everybody knows him. He is the co-founder of the Orlando Magic. He's the man who brought the Magic to town, and he is the man who has written a new book about Jon Wooden. Pat, how many books is this?
That's number 70, Michael.
No, really?
Yeah, I wrote my first book in 1974. I was 34 years old at the time, a book called The Gingerbread Man. It was the kind of book, once you put it down, you couldn't pick it up again. But somehow I kept plowing on, Mike, kept plowing on. And the latest book is just simply called Coach Wooden, 7 Principles That Shaped His Life and Will Change Yours. It's really a book basically about Coach Wooden's father and the impact that Joshua Hugh Wooden had on Jon Wooden. It's just remarkable. So we wanted to capture that wonderful story, and I think we have.
I want to talk about your book next segment. Because I want to know about Coach Wooden, all right? And I want to know about your meeting with him, or meetings with him. But right now, I don't know if you've been listening to this show for the last couple of weeks, but Brian Fritz, my co-host, is a lifelong Lakers fan, all right?
Mm-hmm. Pat knows this. Me and Pat go way back, too.
Right.
Lifelong Lakers fan, but he grew up in Orlando, okay? Came to Orlando when he was 9 years old, went to elementary school, high school, middle school, college, went to college at UCF. So he's been in Orlando essentially his whole life. Mm-hmm. Was here when the Magic were born, when you sired the Orlando Magic here in the city of Orlando. I think the Magic have to be his favorite team, doesn't it? And you are a motivational speaker, Pat. You get paid thousands of dollars per appearance to motivate people. You need to transform Brian Fritz into a Magic fan.
Well, I go way back with Brian. Mm-hmm. I remember him when he was just a wee little lad when I got here 25 years ago. He was probably, 7 or 8 then? And my job at that time, Mike, was to convert everybody, into first of all, pro basketball fans, then get them involved with this new team, the Orlando Magic, somehow or other. And I don't know how it happened, but Brian slipped through the net. He would be one of those little minnows that, just slip through the net. And I'm
minnow.
So I've been following you all that's been going on for the last few weeks. So I think what we might have here this morning, I mean, this could be like the altar call at First Baptist on Sunday morning.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we could have a conversion right here in front of our very eyes, a transformation.
Well,
but it's not going to be with words, Mike. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be with logic. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to have to be emotion.
Yeah.
And what I've learned with these recalcitrant people, who just didn't come around, you've got to humor them with gifts.
Oh.
So look what I have done.
Oh.
I mean, when we are through this little ceremony, you're going to see Brian down on his knees, just screaming. Give me an M. Give me an A. So it starts, first of all, Brian, with the bag. A beautiful,
look at that.
That is a very nice bag.
Dwight Howard bag.
Wow.
Has anybody offered you a Kobe Bryant bag?
No, I can't say that they have.
Has Jerry Buss ever come here?
No.
Has Mitch Kupchak ever offered you that?
Yeah.
But it goes far beyond this beautiful bag. Inside the bag.
Oh, goodies inside the bag.
Oh, do we have goodies. And Brian is a sucker for goodies. Here
You ain't
is
kidding.
here is a Dwight Howard.
Oh, I love that
Shoot
CD.
for the Stars, a
That is-
CD.
that is a tremendous CD.
Here is a banner. See these banners around your studio? Eastern Conference Champions, 809. This is for your bedroom at home, Brian.
Oh,
Here is a book that I wrote a few years ago about the owner of the Magic, Rich DeVos. How to be like Rich DeVos.
I need to read that book.
The billionaire, the co-founder of Amway. You know, you're going to learn. You'll be out of this studio. You're going to lose him after he reads this book. He'll be out making billions.
I'll even throw in, Brian, Pat's book, The Making of Magic.
There we go.
Yeah.
Here are stickers for your refrigerator.
See?
Here is magnetized little doodads, magic logos for your automobile.
Oh, nice.
There are two of them, front and back.
Oh,
and
yeah.
an extra one if you want to put it on the roof of your car so that everybody can see you from above. And, I mean, that's a pretty good little package.
What do you
Brian.
say,
It's not
Fritzy?
too bad.
What do you say, Fritzy?
Trying to buy me off.
Huh?
And look at Fritzy's eyes. They're glowing a little bit. So
yeah.
we're gonna.
Do you believe in magic?
That's it. We need some background music.
Yeah.
We'll pray over you, Brian. But it's my pleasure. I got up very early this morning to present to you, Brian. Please reach
There it
over.
is.
There it is.
There it is, Brian. There it is. The passing
It is all
of the
yours.
magic
There you go.
torch.
I do like gifts. I do like gifts.
Now, some people don't get converted on the spot, Michael, but watch him carefully over the next week. And the Lakers are in town. I think the real test will be in about less than 2 weeks when the Lakers come to town.
Free tickets.
Well,
Are you going to give him free tickets?
Well, because I'm not until he's converted. Because if he's there rooting for the Lake, that would be.
We've had a bad incident there where I was a fan. I went to a game and cheered for the Lakers. I actually had trash thrown at me years ago.
It would be sort of like last year during the playoffs when they were playing the Cavs and the Magic gave Shaq free tickets, and Shaq was there rooting for the Cavs. Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get into that.
But you know what the bottom line is, Pat? I want the Magic to do well, and I do root for the Magic, except for when they play the Lakers.
Nah,
that's the only
that's
time
not
I
good
don't
enough.
root for
No,
the
Brian.
Magic.
No, Brian. That you can't be that way. In other words, you root for us 80 times a year, and then root for the Lakers twice of the 82. No, I don't think Magic fans would buy that.
You should be proud of me, though. I tried to be as professional as possible a couple of years ago when the two teams met in the finals.
Yes. What do you mean professional as possible?
I tried to be as I wasn't like cheering
wasn't
in the
cheering
I wasn't
from
cheering
press
in the media section. I know about that. I wasn't trying to be outlandish like that. I kept it all inside, and then once I got home that night, I enjoyed the victory.
Pat, will you also settle another argument?
Yeah, what is
for
that,
us
Michael?
here on this show? I've been trying to tell these youngsters on this show that the Heat are the Magic's number one rival, and it dates back to when you guys were trying to get a franchise here, and not many people remember the Heat and the Magic were battling to see who would get a franchise. Isn't that when the rivalry was born? And do you agree that the Heat is and should be the Magic's number one rival?
A, yes, without question. B, it all started in June of 1986. Billy Cunningham and I had been in Philly together for years, he coaching, me GMing, and we left at the same time, and Billy headed to Miami, and I headed to Orlando the same week. What are the odds of that happening?
Yeah.
His mission was to help bring a team to South Florida. My mission, Orlando. And I started tweaking right away, all the little one-liners about Miami. And Billy and I got into it. I remember Billy saying, keep this above board. Let's keep this above board. And
So he got really mad?
Oh, yeah. Billy called me one day and said, let's keep all this above board. And we
Translation, he didn't have the one-liners that you had.
Well, I had that little book that I used. Like, crime is down in Miami. They've run out of victims. Anyway, and who knew that 86-87 run for 10 months? Are any teams going to get in? Is the league going to take one? They'll only take one in Florida, but we're better than Miami. Oh, boy, it was intense.
Remember the newspaper war between Dave Barry and Bob Morris? Remember that?
Oh, big time. And they sent Dave Barry up here, and Dave was in his heyday then. And, boy, he undressed us. A Sunday supplement story called us Orlandoids. If you lived here, you were an Orlandoid. And then described an Orlandoid as a low far-headed, nose-picking yahoo.
Yeah.
I remember he said, if it wasn't for the Waffle Houses, there'd be no culture in Orlando at all.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And unnecessary, uncalled on. So Bob Morris, bless his heart, I mean, Bob became our Dave Barry.
Uh-huh.
And out of that, the Shaft Trophy was invented, named after Louis Chaffel, the president of the Heat. And there was this ugly little, worst-looking trophy you've ever seen. It went to the team that lost the series every year.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, we got it going, but we never really have competed on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you really build a rivalry is in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned, Mike, it's got to be like 3 out of 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Philly-Boston. It seemed like every spring, Philly-Boston. Way back, it would be Baltimore and the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every year they would meet, and then, of course, Boston, L.A. That's how rivalries are built. So we've had one playoff series with Miami way back in the 97, I think, and that's it. So we'll see. But there's no question with Miami beefed up with all their talent, and they're our main rival. I don't think there's any question. There'll be more energy in the building tonight than even with Boston or L.A. There'll be intensity in there tonight, big time.
Pat, one last thing about the Magic. We have time? Real quick, do you think the media, and that includes obviously us on this show, do we dwell too much on Dwight could be leaving, he could be pulling another Shaq after next season? I mean, you lived through the Shaq ordeal, and now, with LeBron leaving Cleveland last year and the Carmelo Anthony saga in Denver, are we making too much out of this, or is that a legitimate thing we should be talking about?
Well, it's too early, Mike, and there's no question the whole thing in Cleveland was alarming and upsetting to that whole community. Bosh in Toronto, now Carmelo is the latest in line. Coupled with it is the collective bargaining issue, and we don't know how that's all going to play out. But I'm confident. This is Dwight's home. He's got deep roots here. He grew up with this organization. But it's still early, it's still early. But yes, the media has got to jump on all that stuff and tweak it. But I in my opinion, we're out too front on that. Listen, we've got a whole half of this year and all of next year, and impossible to predict what's going to happen. But there's no question Dwight's the centerpiece of our franchise, and our ownership is committed to building around him and continuing to build. And I'm confident that Dwight will be here and spend his whole career here. He'll be a lifer in Orlando. That's just my gut feeling.
When we come back, we're going to talk to Pat about his new book about Jon Wooden, the greatest college basketball coach, maybe the greatest coach of all time. That's next on Open Mic here on 740 The Game.
Orlando's Talking Sports
It's Open Mic with the Orlando Sentinel's Mike Bianchi and Brian Fritz.
on 740 The Game.
Final segment of the show here. Been a very busy morning. Pat Williams from the Orlando Magic still in studio with us here for a few more minutes.
I am Mike Bianchi, sports columnist of the Orlando Sentinel. If you haven't read about recruiting, I urge you to go to orlandosentinel.com this morning, and we have it all. We have interviews, we have video, we have it all from National Signing Day yesterday. Pat Williams, founder of the Orlando Magic, here in studio with us. Pat has written a new book about Jon Wooden. Pat, obviously Jon Wooden is an icon to everybody. What was it like when you first met him? Just tell us the story about when you first met him to do the book.
Well, I was in the NBA for years, and he was still coaching at UCLA, so I never really got to know him. But I wrote a book 11 years ago called How to Be Like Mike. Not you, Michael, but the other Mike.
Yes.
And then the publisher said, well, let's do some more of these How to Be Like titles. So I said, well, Coach Wooden would be wonderful. I sent him a letter asking for his blessing to write a book, How to Be Like Coach Wooden. And so the phone rang one day, and I heard this voice. Mr. Williams, this is Jon Wooden, the former basketball coach at UCLA. He said, I got your letter. He said, now, I'm not worthy of such a project. Mm-hmm. But if you would like to write that book, he said, you go on ahead. And, so that started. That would be maybe 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I spent 4.5 years immersed in that project, and he let me into his life. I did about 800 interviews from people in his world, and spent maybe 5 or 6 evenings with him. Pick him up at 5 o'clock at his condo in Encino, California. Go to the Valley Inn for the early bird special, and then back to his condo to sit in his den and talk, listen to the Mills Brothers on his 78 records.
Really?
And, oh, boy, just priceless. It was Cheers, it was just priceless. So out of that, a friendship developed. But and that book came out. It's still in print, and it has done quite well. But I was always intrigued by his father. I've never seen a famous person, Mike, of great note, talk so openly about his dad. And he would write about his dad, but this 7-point creed always kept coming up. Mm-hmm. And when Jon Wooden was 12 years old, his dad handed him a handwritten piece of paper with a 7-point creed. He said, "Johnny, live your life by these principles." And what 12-year-old kid would keep that? Mm-hmm. Come on. I mean, that becomes a paper airplane, right? Yeah. Real quick. Yeah. But Johnny Wooden, to go on to be the greatest coach in the history of sports, kept it in his wallet his whole life. Wow. And then later, he had that 7-point creed manufactured in little plastic cards, and Coach would, I think, tens of thousands he would have to give out. But and he mentioned it in his writings, but it was never fully developed. So my decision was, I want to write this book about the 7-point creed as a 100th birthday surprise for Coach Wooden. Mm-hmm. And I didn't tell him about it. But he died 4 months before his 100th birthday. But the book is just coming out now, and I was thrilled to hear from his daughter, Nan, who got the book. Just ordered 21 copies for all the Wooden grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and the first great-great-grandson who was born in August, 2 months after Coach's death. And I signed all 21 of them for the children, the grandchildren. So Mrs. Nan Wooden seems pleased with it. We've just simply captured these 7 principles to pass on to the next generations. The principles are timeless. Coach Wooden's dad wrote them in 1922, but they're as applicable today as any time. So that's a brief history of it. The other little footnote that thrilled me, who better to write a foreword about Coach Wooden than Tony Dungy? Yeah. Whose philosophies are so closely linked. So that was a real highlight when Tony Dungy said, "Yeah, I'd be honored to do it." So Coach Dungy did the foreword, and the book is just coming out this week and hitting bookstores, and just in time for March Madness and the first anniversary of Coach Wooden's death and Father's Day coming up. So I think the timing's good.
Where can they get the book?
It's in bookstores now. In fact, I was pleased up at the Borders on 436. It's on the front table, and
oh, nice.
I saw 6 copies at the Barnes & Noble. Over on 436 as well. So it's out there. It's in bookstores. Amazon, always a wonderful way to order books, Mike. But it's just simply called Coach Wooden. There's a picture of Coach on the cover. I would guess he's in his mid-50s at that point. He lived to 99. He missed his 100th birthday by 4 months. And but what a remarkable man, what a remarkable coach. But more importantly, a great teacher. Maybe one of the world's greatest teachers ever.
Pat, real quick, we've got about a minute left. The relationship he had with his wife, the love letter.
Well, and we get into that. What a marriage. Nell was his high school sweetheart, and they had a great life together. She died when he was in his 70s, so he lived maybe 25 years without her, but never really got over her. And on the 21st of every month, he would write a love letter to her. And then stack it up on her side of the bed in their condo.
Wow.
And I was he showed it to me one time. These notes just stacked up with a ribbon around them. But the most, and I tell the story in this book. He was in the hospital last June. His life was coming to an end. His former players were around him. He was unshaven, and he said to Jamal Wilkes one day, he said, "I got to get out of bed," he said, and get shaved here. He says, "I'm getting ready to see Nell."
Wow.
Ooh. Wow. I mean, it was powerful stuff.
He is Pat Williams. We urge you to buy his new book on Jon Wooden. I am Mike Bianchi. Over across the studio is co-host Brian Fritz and master engineer Brandon Kravitz. We say thanks for joining us here today on Open Mic. Don't forget Shot Doctor and David Buffa this afternoon, 3 to 6 p.m. on 740 The Game. And don't forget,
go online to 740thegame.com if you missed any of the conversations that we had earlier today with George O'Leary or with Pat Williams. We'll have that available
and
online.
Michael, keep an eye, please on Brian for me. Some conversions don't happen instantaneously. I may have just been a seed planter today, but